The conversations that had come out, pardon the dog, again, we're live. I'll tell you, this is just going off the rails today. One of the other conversations right there was with lap cars and so forth that came up in Cars Tour action. And we actually had some events here in Texas to where restarts and so forth were being questioned about how all of that's handled. How do you line cars up and so forth? And I mentioned this a lot of times, and I don't think this was necessarily the case in the Cars Tour race that was being questioned right there. When you have a back marker or you reach the back of the field, as I like to say so often when I'm doing this stuff, it's like a lot of times you see the action to where the leaders will catch the back of the pack. And you actually have, if you have two or three drivers, I mean, they may be in a battle for position. And that's where it gets extremely tough. And at the same time, in the different situations when you have leaders, I mean, closing speed and different things can be addressed, and you've got in in these series, whether it's pro late models, I mean, and I'm even talking about outlaws and sportsmen and all these different things. You've got spotters and so forth that are going to be in the spotter stand that are talking to the drivers, but closing rates and so forth are really, really hard. And when I mean, you can say stay high, you can say stay low, but I mean, just as everything is happening on the track, it happens really, really fast. And so to critique that is that's another one of those situations to where it gets really hard to say who's in the right or who's in the wrong and how that needs to be handled. Because like I was talking about there at the 276, every situation is different. I mean, you can watch a race right now, and then you can watch a race tomorrow. And this is you see this, or I see this even more aggressively in dirt track racing, in dirt late models, and in modifieds and limited modifieds and sport mods, to where you have leaders that are gaining towards the back of the field, and as they catch the back of the field, I mean, it's really, really hard for some of these guys, because you're moving that fast. And a lot of folks want to beat up on whoever that driver may have been that's getting passed, or that it was a little more difficult to pass. But again, that's a very case by case scenario, to where you can't just say, well, there needs to be a rule for passing lap cars. It's extremely hard. I mean, I've called races where, like I'm talking about, you've got three guys battling for the lead, and they chase up and they come up to a three-car battle for 12th, 13th, whatever the spot is. And you should expect, just with unwritten code and driver courtesy, that drivers should yield to the leader. But at the same time, if you're in that three-car battle for that 12th spot or whatever it is, I mean, it's really, really hard to get out of the accelerator, really hard to get out of the damn way and yield a spot. And that's where that's why I say, and you guys can feel free to dive in here and give me your thoughts. You can't just have a blanket generic thing to where it's like, we need to have a new procedure for passing lapped cars. Again, for a car that's being passed by a leader or by leaders, it's something to where you need to do everything that you can do. And this goes back, and this does go back to race control. This does go back to spotters, to where they need to be very cognizant of, okay, leaders are a straightaway back. You need to be prepared because they're coming. And if you do have that three-car battle, they need to race that just in whatever way, that way that they know that those dudes and ladies are coming. So that's where it gets really hard when you get to blanket statements to, this will fix everything. Although that yellow flag rule